we need to spend some time brainstorming different ways in which society would be different if we did not have money, right? Different ways about different aspects of society and how they would be if money didn't exist, right? Here's one. First of all, since we don't have to worry about how much we're getting paid in order to survive, right? Because the premise here is that all you have to do is work a job anywhere, doing something to serve society in any capacity, for any amount of hours, right? Because some people like to work more and some people like to work less. And what difference does it make, really? So long as you serve society, society serves you in return, right? So you have free access to everything. So with that in mind, unemployment no longer needs to be an issue, right? Because now we don't have to limit the amount of positions we can fill, right? Because we don't have to worry about how much money people need to make in order to survive, right? So the 8-hour work shift, out the window, right? Now, everybody that's able to contribute, right, is allowed to contribute, and because of that, everybody has much shorter work shifts, right? Maybe 3-4 days a week, 3-4 hours per shift, right? And then what does that lead to? Immigration is no longer a problem, right? Because the more people there are that can work, the less work everybody has to do.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, when 100,000 new people suddenly come into our society, hey, that's one less hour per shift for everybody. Woo! Or whatever, one less shift per week for everybody, whatever, So that's a definite benefit of how life would be if money didn't exist. Do you have any ideas?
Any good things if money didn't exist?
Yeah.
I think we'd have like a big lodge for everybody to get together, like a community hall where everybody could just, go, work out, go in a hot tub or even just like sit and watch TV and not like drink or no alcohol or anything, but just like gather and like have good ideas and like constructive things and shit. But
Yeah.
and it wouldn't be all about business and going out to restaurants and having to pay. It would be free, so like time wouldn't be a thing either, and blah blah blah. And that's one thing I could think of. And yeah, like the community, the collective thing, I agree with that, where everybody has to like do something, whether it's like the whole bottle cap or whatever the hell their job title is, their doctor, etc., etc. So.
There's that's in the same alignment as like a lot of the things that we currently feel like we require ownership over.
Yes.
We won't need to require ownership over anymore, right?
Mm-hmm.
In fact, the entire concept of ownership goes right out the window when money no longer exists, right? You can only have the concept of ownership if you have the concept of like that you're buying something, but if you're not actually buying it, then what are you doing? In reality, you're borrowing it.
Yes.
Right? And so, like, you don't need a personal bike, right? You can go to the bike store and, rent a different model every day until you figure out, hey, this is the model I really like. And then you continue to rent that model as needed, right? You go to the dealership and you rent a different car every day until you're like, hey, I really like this car, And the awesome thing about that is, when you buy a car, well, you're stuck with that car for a long time. But without the case of ownership, well, you're free to try a different car every fucking day.
Exactly.
You know, until you're like, hey, this is the one I like.
Suck into that fucking shit, exactly.
Right? And so many other things. How would that operate with, like, right now we have the ownership of homes, right? Or at least we think we have the ownership of homes. And in reality, you look at your mortgage or deed and it's classified as usury. And you don't actually own it. The town or the bank owns it. They hold what's called the allodial title in their legal system. But without money, without the concept of ownership, well, then you can't own the house, you can't own the property you live on. So how does that work? Well, again, it's instead of the concept of ownership, it's now the concept of management, right? Which is similar to trust law, right? And that's how you would have to operate in a world without money, is in a world based on trust, right? On trust law, where certain people manage properties or assets for the benefit of the beneficiaries, right? So, for example, parents owning a home would manage that property and that house for the benefit of their children, right? Who would then one day take over that estate, right? And manage it for the benefit of their children and their parents if it's, you know, a multi-generational estate. Otherwise, the parents would then go and get their own property and put that into trust, right? Where then they would manage it for their own benefit. And you can do that. You can be the grantor of the trust and the beneficiary. You just need to have a different trustee to manage the property for you, right? And you know, basically what that means is somebody else is the one making the calls on maintenance and lawn care and upkeep and cleaning or whatever is necessary, right? It just means somebody else making the decisions on those to make sure that that property lasts in beneficial condition a long time for the beneficiary or the beneficiaries, right? Which can also be the grantors or settlers of the trust. So that's how things would work without money, as far as, especially as far as property is concerned, right? Ownership goes entirely out the window when money goes out the window. So that changes a lot of things. But what effect does that have on psychology? That's an important question.
Less aggression?
What does the concept of ownership do to our psychology, right? Well, it prevents us from wanting to share, right? It makes us self-interested, self-loving, which deteriorates the soul because it divides your mind, it splits you into two. Because as Sadhguru is known to have said, it takes two to love, it takes two to respect, right? And I'm going to add to that, it takes two to have awareness, right?
Yes.
So if you are self-absorbed, right? If you are selfish, which is what the concept of ownership does to you, is it turns you into, I want more, I want to have ownership, right? That's selfish, right? It's a selfish thing to begin with, ownership, right? The very concept itself is selfish. So that causes us to become more and more selfish.
Exactly, it's a system to set up to like
part of the self-corrupting system that you know we have built for ourselves, around ourselves in society. So when you get rid of the concept of ownership, what does that do psychologically? Now it's about management, and it's about, you know, borrowing, right? And it's about service for service, which means I serve society, society serves me in return. It doesn't matter if you're only working 3-4 hours a week, right? You're serving society. So everyone else out in society can serve you when you need their services or products, right? Come on, circle back, mind. Where was I? Before I went off on that tangent. Psychological subject. So now we're thinking in terms more of instead of the self-interest, what's the collective interest, right?
The whole group.
And the reason we've never been able to implement a system in society where we've been able to focus on the collective interest before was because money, frankly, gets in the way, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's no lack of abundance of products. There's no lack of abundance of services.
Mm-hmm.
If there's plenty of people in the world, there's plenty of skilled people in the world. So obviously there's no lack of services. There's no lack of resources.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I mean, if you take in the amount of waste that we produce every single year, which grows year after year, there's obviously no lack of resources. But why does it all end up going to waste? Because there's a lack of money to purchase it with.
Yeah, exactly. That's true.
So if you don't have money and you don't have ownership, right, then that changes everything. We don't have to use this whole system cycle of waste. We can recycle a lot more now, right? Everything's abundant, so it doesn't matter how little you work. If you support society, society supports you in return, and there's an abundance for that. It's just that if you have money, not everyone can afford it.
Exactly. You know.
But without money, everybody is free to share it. And there's more than enough for everybody to live in whatever terms of luxury, and that means for them. Well, like whatever they think luxury is for them. Like everybody should have the ability to live in whatever luxury means for them, and everybody has a different idea of luxury.
Very true.
The world has enough products, services, people, and resources for everybody to live in their definition of luxury. It just doesn't have enough money for everybody to afford it all. So that's a benefit. And then we touched upon how we can actually recycle everything now. So we don't have to destroy the ecosystem, which obviously is our home. So it's probably a good idea not to do that. It's also the home of billions of other creatures. It's probably a good idea not to do that. Probably a very good idea to recycle efficiently. We just can't afford it with money.
Yeah. It's
Without money, we can afford it. We don't have to worry about affording it. We can just do it. Like, hey, this is part of the thing that we have to work on in society now. 3-4 hours a day, 3-4 days a week. Now, who wouldn't accept a deal like that? I would. I'll tell you one thing. I would certainly not care if I had to spend just 3-4 hours a day, 3-4 days a week doing something I didn't really want to do, but that benefited myself and other people and the world around me. And then I get to spend all the rest of my time, and it's a lot more time, doing whatever the fuck I want to do. Whenever the fuck I want to do it. Great fucking deal. I would take it in a heartbeat. You don't need money to live in a world like that. And what are people going to spend all that time doing? Yeah, maybe entertaining themselves. People get bored of that too eventually, though. You'd be surprised. I've had a lot of time to entertain myself before. It gets really boring sometimes. You know what I do when I'm bored with entertaining myself? Research. I start learning shit. What else are you going to do if you have time and nothing to do? You just start learning shit. What happens when you start learning shit? Now you start coming up with ideas. Hey, this might be an idea for, a beneficial service to society. We could just create this tiny little change with this, or introduce this new technology for that, and then we all have to work less.
Exactly.
And then we all have to work less. And then we all have to... Eventually, 95% of the people won't have to work 100% of the time.
Mm-hmm.
But only if we get rid of money and the concept of ownership.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they'll stop the competition.
Can you think of any other benefits?
I'm I'm sure I will later, but not at the moment. I
Mm.
can't think of anything right now.
Well, viewers, what do you think? Why don't you try doing some deep thinking right now, since we have all this time and really nothing else to do, and think about what would the world be like? What would be some of the benefits, or possibly even detriments? I mean, I know there's people out there that would totally disagree with me and think I'm entirely crazy, and I say let the argument begin. Talk about the benefits. Talk about the deficits. How would this work? How would it not work? How would it make the world better? How would it destroy the world? Like whatever opinion you happen to have, like let's talk about this. Put your opinions in the comments, and hell, go on, make your own videos to discuss this. Let's whatever. This is a really important question at this point in time in our history that we need to be discussing right now. And however, by whatever means possible, like just start posting your fucking opinions on this subject, just let's get it going, good or bad, right? Just let the discussion take place and see what comes out of it, let's see what the majority of the people in the world actually think when they actually think about this subject, right? I can't stress enough how important it is to really start thinking about this now, because, again, as I've said in other videos, the only reason we have a government is because money exists. If we didn't have money, we wouldn't need a government, right? And, I have this 60-year plan of how to phase money out of existence and implement a completely and totally different kind of government that's interwoven into society instead of acting as a separate piece of society that lords over society. Which, at that point is no longer actually a government, it's really just a network, right? Which is exactly what society actually is. It's a network of people. So, let's let that discussion begin, please. By all means, post your opinions in the comments, make your own videos, put it out there, talk about how good it is, talk about how bad it is, whatever, and, if you want this video to reach a lot of people, then make sure you click that like button, even if you're not subscribed, even if you don't want to subscribe. Because if you want this video to reach more people, then the like button is how you can help do that. And also commenting too. Commenting and the like button will help this video reach more people. So let the discussion begin.